I feel like these are the moments when my times of work must continue coming and going. I can continue to show you all so much more, talk about it while I work. And as for what we did on the sleeve cuffs and the mittens for the last one, we are going to continue that on this video. So it's going to go a little ways and we're going to take it a little further. My parents are upstairs watching the UK football game, which UK is the college in our state, and it's in our own hometown. It's the place where the sports are real popular here, and here in Lexington, everybody big fans of the Wildcats. As we all said, there's also up north of us is the University of Louisville, whose team is the Cardinals. The Cardinals are pretty popular too. Sometimes people here like to watch UK play against U of L, watch the Wildcats play against the Cardinals. That's in basketball though. It happens real commonly that among the basketball fans, that's often how it is. And it also makes me think of all the more reasons why I'm just so thankful I don't hang around those bars anymore, where I used to go just to socialize with people and sip soda and tea and stuff and eat wings and talk about random things. Because going to a place like that, you're around people who, it's like if you didn't watch the UK versus U of L game or pay attention to it. I mean, people get all offended. There was a night I was at a bar myself, and it was back in 2013, and it's hard to explain these people I was sitting next to. They were just kind of strange, and more than that, I was in there just kind of talking to them about my music, my Aspie track stuff, about what we called Asperger's at the time. They changed the name to autism spectrum disorder, though, but I couldn't even tell you what all they were saying because they were over there, like I didn't even know who they were talking about at first, but it was this couple, this dating couple, and the lady, she said to me something like, "We saw you in the news. We know who you are. You're lying. You're taking advantage of people." And I didn't know what she was talking about. Didn't know there had been anybody in the news who had. I thought if I had ever been in the news, it probably would have been for all the good I was out trying to do for people, all the intentions I was trying to have, all the better place I was trying to make of this world. But it's like she got up to kind of go use the restroom, and that man was there guarding me at first. And when she came back, I don't know what happened, but I felt like I was in danger. They were invading my space, so tried to get the attention of the bartender, and he said, "Oh, don't even mention it. She showed me that video. You're a scam artist." He said, "You're not autistic, and you're acting all righteous in that video, and don't even mention it." Or and all these threats he made. Got up and got the manager, and he said, "Okay, then, so let's split up." And he invited me to come and sit over on the other side. So that's kind of what we did. I kind of changed seats and kind of did things a little differently. And I came home to sort of tell my friends about it on social media, and I got all different kinds of replies from them. And one of them in particular told me about a man who had been around Lexington and Richmond and Cincinnati, and things he had been out there just showing and doing, and the fact that for what he was out there doing, I mean, it really was taking advantage of people. He wasn't really crippled, but he was going around in a wheelchair, and he was faking a slurred speech just to try to get money off of people. And I mean, like they said, they were telling me, "Oh, you're taking advantage of people who work for a living." I'm like, I worked just like you do. So most people knew it, but as far as what this guy was doing, I mean, that's exactly what he was doing. He was just out faking a disability just to be panhandling. I tell you, we often have that happen all too often around stores. I heard about that guy getting kicked out of many towns for doing it. He's been a big story in the news. I don't know that that was exactly who they were accusing me of being, but that was what my friend was suspecting in the message. So, above all things, I say that some people wonder why I don't really get out and try to advocate anymore for autism or Aspies or things like that. I mean, and if they know what I've already been through, they probably know there's a lot of good, legitimate reason why. But even on that evening, we had this discussion, and my friend replied, she said, oh, there's always good hearted people like you in this world, too, she said. But she told him about this guy and said, oh, but unfortunately, it wasn't him, it was you. So she understood, but then I've told other people this little story, and I've had people say to me, oh, but if they thought you was him, then I don't blame them. So little do we know. I mean, this is just one of the main reasons I've just kind of changed my directions in life, changed my focus in life. There's just stuff I don't get out and do like I used to because, oh, I tell you, all this way this whole world is changing. It's not what it used to be. We live in a world where, you can be out there just trying to do good for people and, just trying to do yourself a favor and do others a favor, trying to make this world a better place for you and many other people, trying to help yourself and help other people. And in this world, it's just become a place where people don't know what to expect of strangers. Sometimes there are people who are really in some kind of need, and people don't trust them because of the fact that so many strangers are out there just faking it and lying about it just to try to take advantage of people. I know that the Walmart parking lot is just a place where it commonly happens. I mean, people would be out there panhandling because it's just a place where so many shoppers would be, and it's just kind of one of those things where you just hear all the made up stories. People ask you, where can I go to get something to eat? They kicked me out of here, kicked me out of there. I've had people even say to me, oh, we're Navy SEALs, we're taking money. It's like we're homeless, we're out here outside the store and it's raining, so we can't get across to get anything to eat. Could you spare something to us? So, all the different stories we've heard around the different places, they all say different things, mean different things, and it's just one of these worlds where anybody's out to do anything. I never ask anybody for money or favors in return for what I do. Sometimes I just do it because I just kind of want the world to understand things. There's some things in this world people are not going to understand. I've learned no matter how much I be advocating for autism and Asperger's that I will always work with people in places who aren't going to choose to understand. There's been times when I've worked on jobs where I've been treated in such ways where even the way that my psychiatrist who I had at the time would speak of it was insane. Oh, this is just like if Jonathan had a wooden leg and if somebody were kicking it. I'd say there's little things people don't realize and little things people don't know, but commonly said, it's all just a misunderstanding sometimes because people say different things and mean different things. And sometimes if somebody doesn't know you, it can kind of go a long way and give them a little reason not to trust you and to take offense. Think of it as being almost like how it was. I've worked in a hospital once. I wanted to have more conversation with more people around the hospital, just like my coworkers were getting. I wanted to fit in with people. I would kind of share my life stories and write it down on text and type it out on the computer, print it out, and make copies of it that I'd share around. And there were times I took it to the wrong person at the wrong place, got somebody all offended, had them bring it to the attention of my manager, and had somebody else say to me, "Oh, we all know you, and we know who you are. We know you're real good hearted, but not everybody is. Not everybody knows you. Not everybody does." And so it's just a thing where we're sometimes being genuine and honest, trying to really show people who we are and what we need and what we want to be. But sometimes you come to realize that it's all about what you have in common with people. Little did I know at the time, but so much I learn over time. From the time I get around these people to the time I see them in life, they all just kind of mean things that we don't even know yet, that we don't see or understand, but we know that there's a little word that comes to mind and comes to life, and things that we say to each other all the time and all the way. It's just a word that gets out, word of faith. And we know according to a verse in Romans 8, it tells us that faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. There was a time when Smith Wigglesworth quoted that verse in his book. Sometimes he would say, yes, that faith does come that way, but when it comes to things like reading the Bible and all, he would always say that that verse about faith would just be a means by which you could work so many more miracles, and sometimes they have little tricks behind those little miracles they fake. They say it, they do it in the name of Jesus, but it's all things, they think they can get whatever they want with that name, and whatever it does, I'd say that there's some churches that believe in it, some people who believe in it, some people who believe that even today we still have the gifts of the apostles, people who claim they are practicing them, but it's just among those things where I just know if anything worked the way these preachers preached it, it would have worked for me. Because I got on prayer lines with people, I tried to get healed. I tried to get all this filled with the Spirit like they talked about. And I just discovered it all just doesn't work the way they preach it. It doesn't work the way they teach it. It all goes down to little things that make us think and say, oh, how horrible. Because sometimes people are deceived. They get people on the stage and they have them pretend to be sick and pretend to get healed. Then there's people who are really sick who aren't on the stage, and they try to get healed, and they don't even allow the other people to come on the stage and have a hand laid on them to be healed, because they are deceiving people. If they could be doing it on these shows and on these arena stages, they could be doing it in hospitals. But all because of the deception that is involved. There's no way that if they even went to a hospital, they'd really be able to do as they claim to do. There's nowhere in Scripture does it say these days are we given that authority. There may have been certain authorities that were given to the apostles in the book of Acts, but we know in 1 Corinthians there's a place where it says, where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is prophecy, it will cease. And where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. And that, in that case, they are referring to the completion of the New Testament. Because once the New Testament was complete, that was when we no longer had those things, because we have the testament by which to read about these miracles and know the things that Jesus did to show he was the Son of God, and did through the apostles to show that there was a gospel. Everything doesn't turn out the way we always hope for. Like Don Francisco said, that others make it clear that if it were possible, they would write their epistles in the Gospels so that nobody'd ever have to shed a tear. I say that there are times in our lives when we will all see different things. We will all come to different points of view on different things. All learn about God in different ways. For God is a good God. He's a righteous King. He's a ruler over everything. And this little work of my hands is just one of the things God's gifted me with. Sometimes, just sometimes, we think about the things we'd like to be gifted with. God didn't make me to be a performer or a musician or a preacher like I sometimes wished. He only designed me to be an artist. So what we see is that sometimes our skill does not always lie where we want it to lie. It doesn't always say what we want it to say. It can't always be what we want it to be. We all see something in somebody else we wish we had or wished we could do. People tell me when they look at my art, they say, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be creative. I wish I could be crafty. I say, well, it's one of those things where, we all see something in somebody else that we wish we could be. It's just one of those things where everybody can't be good at everything. Everybody can't be everything they want to be. Sometimes even the people who say that, they might even be the best athletes. Sometimes when it's in a high school or a college, sometimes the athletes will be the ones who get the most attention from the peers. Sometimes the athletes might be the ones who everybody likes, who everybody has an interest in, who everybody thinks a lot of. And there comes a time when they're going to leave the school world and enter the adult world and see something different. Because sometimes you also know that there could be things about the jocks and the cheerleaders that may make it harder for different people to fit in with them. We know it was even a trouble for my sister and my brother to fit in with those people because of what they were like and who they were and all the things they could say and do. And we know everybody doesn't see everybody from the same point of view. Everybody doesn't take interest in everybody's work the same way. Some people care for athletic sports and some don't. I tell you, people, I'm okay with them, but I don't really pay much attention to them. I've got a little bit more important things to pay attention to in life than all this stuff about football and basketball and Olympics and whatever else you might think most people care about or pay attention to. And it's just not in my interest or in my preference. So we all just try to keep our thoughts together, keep our things together, try to have our real friends, the ones who care about us, who know us, who accept us for who we are, know who we are, and those who would certainly say that they think the most of us, because it's just always good to have people who trust you for who you are, not to have people who just want you for your talent or your credit or your money or for abilities that may not last the rest of your life or for looks that may not last or anything else that may not last. Because I say that it's always good, like Tracy Lawrence says in his song, find out who your friends are. And For someone on the spectrum, it can be kind of a difficult thing. For someone who doesn't know much, it can be kind of a difficult thing. There comes a time in your life when you finally find people you have things in common with, who you know much about, people who you can talk to, who will be there for you in your hardest of times, little times in our lives when we all just look past the things that we do not see and look past the things that we do not need. Because I'm telling you, people, that the older we get, the more vain things come. Like I think about that little hymn we sang in church growing up. Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of this earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. So I say that there's been times I've tried to dim out the things of this world through turning to Jesus, but I will say that it's true, the longer you're focused on him, the more you will get past the things of this world. But I'm just here to say that it's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes you'll have to grow a little older and get a little bit more experience to understand it a whole lot better. Sometimes you have to get a little older and get a little bit more experience to understand the vanity and the things of the earth. Because little did we know, time after time, what we saw in people, what we saw people do. The things we know is that sometimes just hearing people's stories can't teach us enough. Sometimes we have to have better experiences. Sometimes by having experiences with things, that might be the only way we can learn. Sometimes the only way we can learn is to try things we haven't already. Because there comes a time when we learn to trust God more and more by his grace and by his mercy and by the things we need and the things we do and the things he does. Because there's a little faith waiting for us on the other side. A stronger faith. A faith that knows no end. A faith that comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. Like there's a verse in 1 Peter 1:7 which says that your faith, more precious than gold, is refined by fire, and the trouble only lasts for a little while. That's kind of one little thing I see as a meaning to that verse, but I tell you, I just never really memorized the whole passage, though I believe it's one of those places where faith gets strong, like where we read in Hebrews that faith is the substance of what we hope for and the evidence of what we don't see. We know in that whole chapter 11 of Hebrews, we read about all the faith of all the Old Testament heroes and all the things they experienced and all the things they went through, and due to the promise they knew was to come, yet they did not live to see the promise. But they, of course, went on to heaven with the Lord before that time, and they saw the promise once they were there, because that's where Jesus was all along, was in heaven, waiting for them, waiting for his time to come down to earth as a babe, to be born in a manger, wrapped in swaddling clothes, as a human flesh man who was holy God and holy man. So I will say that from what we got today, that's about as far as we're going to go on those Santas today. I do need to tell you all a little idea as to one little thing I need to work on. I might have to do this away from the camera due to the fact that it's just a special kind of work that requires a special kind of concentration, but I'm going to need to cut these lines where the eyes are and carve up into there to make the cheeks below the eyes, and make little lines and cut them out up here to make the eyebrows. So I'd say we've got a little thing taken care of today. We got it all under control. We got it all in good shape. And I'd say that there's going to be more to say, more to show, maybe for a future video. But as we need to say, there's so much more to come. Hopefully, we can be soon to the end of this series. Goodbye.